story about what's happened to people, little old grandmothers who are living with this terror every single day. So
Now,
that was my purpose for going there.
now, what is the news coverage coming out of Russia regarding what's going on in the war?
You know, Gerald, that's a really interesting question. Not a whole lot. As you know, we're
Wow.
involved in an information war. The psychological operations, the propaganda coming from the United States is like a tsunami. The Russians are hardly doing anything. Once or twice a day, a general from the Russian military defense gives a report on what has happened on the ground. It never includes casualties. It only includes areas that the Russian and Donbass forces have taken, and the number and the identification of military hardware that has been destroyed on that particular day. It's in the thousands now. But they're not sending out propaganda. They're almost tight-lipped.
Well, but I mean, they're not like, for instance, you talk about Kiev, and you see pictures like this from the New York Times, and destruction of buildings everywhere. Not everywhere, but they're showing a lot of destruction.
And that is true. And in most cases, what has happened is these nationalist forces of Ukraine, including these Nazi battalions, have been putting their artillery in apartment buildings on the top several floors of 7-story, 10-story buildings, and firing from there. There are people that have been hiding in the basement now for a week or so. They've run out of water. They've run out of food. And what Russia has been doing is extremely targeted apartments and apartment buildings where they see Ukrainian military and hardware. So a lot of those pictures, I think, are probably true, but it's not Russia's intention just to go in and blow up buildings. They want to have a Ukraine that is able to resurrect itself, rise up from the ashes with as little of the infrastructure destroyed as possible.
Yeah, there's one over here today about Russian forces hit a shopping mall in Kiev.
Yeah. Again, Gerald, the Nazi battalions and the Izar battalions take over places like a shopping mall. They put their artillery in there. There's pictures of this.
Okay.
And that's why you see the Russians will target those areas. It's not like it's loaded with people.
The other thing that we're hearing is that, well, going back to what the news is. I mean, how about what are the big was it NAI or N what's the big one? The big Russian
TASS is a state-run.
TASS, yeah.
Sputnik is another. Russia Today, RT.
Yeah, but those are the American ones. The ones in Russia, the what's it called? N I've been on it before. N something. It begins with an N.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is either.
But anyway, from TASS, you're only getting. There's not big news about what's going on every day there.
Very little. We were watching television early on, and it was on the news. And I can tell you this: the reaction from people in Russia and Crimea is similar but different. People were shocked. And I have to tell you, it's true that there have been large protests in Russia against the war, just like there are in Europe and in the United States. Nobody wants war. People are being arrested for protesting if they are blocking traffic and interfering with commerce and daily activity. The same thing in the United States. Now, in Crimea, where I live, it's really different. There's two things that are happening. One, the sanctions that the United States just placed on Russia, we were already under sanctions here, have caused a rise in food, and goods, some 20 to 30% just this week.
Wow.
The mood here is a different thing, and it's different than Russia. Prior to 2014, Crimea was run and governed by Ukraine since Khrushchev handed it over. And so there's been intermarriage, Gerald. We have brothers and sisters, husbands and wives who are divided over this conflict, and not only divided over the issue, but they're divided geographically. Many are on both sides of the border. And it has affected people here, Gerald, in a very, very serious way. I have many friends who cannot sleep at night. They're horrified by the thought that they have family and that they have friends that are in this war zone and who are being killed or are hoping not to be killed. It's hard for people to even concentrate on work or whatever they're doing because it's so real to them. It's almost like they were in the war zone. That's how they feel.
Well, I understand. Again, I write a magazine. This is back in 2014, the Trends Journal, about the United States overthrow of Yanukovych and Victoria Nuland, the whole thing, all the details in there. But I also have a peace movement called Occupy Peace, and I'm opposed to wars like this. That I think that things could have happened in a different way. That's my feeling of it, And I'm a fighter. It's not like I'm one of these pacifists. I used to teach close combat for many years, a black belt in it. Somebody tries to attack me, I attack the attacker. So I'm opposed to the way all this is going on. I understand the why, but I don't like the how. And what you're telling me about what's going on in Crimea, this is the first time I've heard that, and it's very sad. What is now